Hello everyone, and welcome back to the History Channel. Today, we're embarking on a journey through time, a journey to rediscover Africa and understand the profound lasting impact of European colonialism, a chapter that spans from the 16th to the 20th century. This isn't just about dates and treaties, it's about people, cultures, and the reshaping of a continent. Our story begins not with a grand invasion, but with small trading posts dotting the African coastline in the 16th century. European powers, initially interested in gold, spices, and other resources, established these footholds. But this early contact laid the groundwork for a much deeper and more disruptive relationship. The transatlantic slave trade, one of history's greatest tragedies, emerged from this era. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes, their societies torn apart, and their potential stolen. This massive depopulation didn't just cause immense human suffering, it created deep social and political instability across West and Central Africa, setting the stage for future vulnerabilities. As we move into the 19th century, the dynamic shifted dramatically. The Industrial Revolution was booming in Europe, creating an insatiable demand for raw materials like rubber, cotton, and palm oil. Africa, with its vast untapped resources, became the ultimate prize. This economic hunger, combined with a potent mix of nationalistic pride and a misguided sense of a civilizing mission, fueled the scramble for Africa. Imagine this. In 1884, leaders from 14 European nations and the United States gathered in Berlin. With no African representation, they drew lines on a map, carving up the continent among themselves. These arbitrary borders, drawn without any regard for the thousands of distinct ethnic groups, languages, and established political systems, were a recipe for conflict. Nations were split apart, and rival groups were forced together under a single colonial administration. The beautiful, complex mosaic of African societies was shattered and reassembled into a colonial puzzle. Life under colonial rule was a system of extraction. The primary goal was to benefit the colonizing power. To achieve this, Europeans imposed new economic structures. Subsistence farming, which had sustained communities for generations, was often replaced by cash crop economies. Africans were forced to grow crops for export, often on land that had been taken from them. This created a dependency on global markets and left many regions vulnerable to food shortages. Infrastructure like railways and ports were built, but not for the benefit of the African people. They were designed to efficiently move resources from the interior to the coast and then on to Europe. The social fabric was also deliberately re-engineered. Colonial administrators often employed a divide-and-rule strategy, favoring certain ethnic groups over others to maintain control and prevent unified resistance. This created hierarchies and fueled resentments that, in many cases, persist to this day. European languages, religions, and education systems were introduced, often at the expense of indigenous knowledge and cultural practices. While some Africans gained access to Western education, it was often designed to create a class of clerks and low-level administrators to serve the colonial state, not to foster independent thought or leadership. But the story of colonialism is not just one of victimhood. It is also a story of immense resilience and resistance. From the very beginning, Africans fought back. We see it in the Ashanti Empire's long resistance against the British in modern-day Ghana, in Ethiopia's stunning victory over Italy at the Battle of Adwa in 1896, and in countless other uprisings and acts of defiance across the continent. These acts of resistance were crucial. They kept the flame of freedom alive and laid the groundwork for the independence movements that would sweep across Africa after World War II. The mid-20th century marked the beginning of the end for formal colonial rule. The world had changed. The ideals of self-determination were gaining momentum, and European powers, weakened by 2 world wars, could no longer justify or afford their empires. A new generation of African leaders, many of whom were educated in the West and inspired by movements for justice around the world, rose to lead their people to freedom. Figures like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, and Leopold Sedar Senghor in Senegal became powerful voices for independence. By the 1960s, a wave of independence had washed over the continent. It was a time of incredible optimism and hope, but the legacy of colonialism proved to be a heavy burden. Newly independent nations inherited the artificial borders drawn in Berlin, which often led to ethnic conflicts and civil wars. They inherited economies designed for extraction, not self-sufficiency, leaving them in a position of economic dependence. The political systems left behind were often fragile, and the sudden departure of colonial administrators left a power vacuum that was sometimes filled by authoritarian rulers or military coups. Today, Africa is a continent of incredible diversity, dynamism, and growth. It's home to some of the world's fastest-growing economies, vibrant cultural scenes, and groundbreaking innovations. But the shadows of colonialism remain. We see it in ongoing political instability, in economic challenges, and in the social tensions that can be traced back to those lines drawn on a map over a century ago. Understanding this history is not about placing blame. It's about gaining a complete picture. It's about acknowledging the deep, complex ways that the past continues to shape the present. By rediscovering this crucial period, we can better appreciate the struggles, the resilience, and the incredible achievements of the African people. It helps us understand the world we live in today and the ongoing journey of a continent that is not just rising, but reclaiming its own narrative. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If you found this exploration insightful, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into our shared global history. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.